So, having recently turned 21, my license expired, and so I was forced to go to the DMV, or the Department of Motor Vehicles, and get my license renewed and get everything taken care of to make sure that I have the proper documentation when I undoubtedly get pulled over again for some sort of traffic offense. I don't even know. So I went there, decided to take the initiative on my part and get up pretty early and go. And by pretty early, I mean like 10 a.m. And so I figured my logic was, hey, it seems like everyone who goes to the DMV really hates it, and for obvious reasons. So I'm going to get this out of the way early in the day and just try and get there before a line builds up so I can just nip this in the bud and go on with my day and not have this looming over my head. So I get there pretty early in the morning, and as soon as I walk in, much to my chagrin, I realize, oh shit, it seems like everyone else had this idea too. And I noticed there were about 15 people in line for different parts of the DMV, but there were only about 5 people in line for the license aspect. I don't know how most DMVs are organized, but this one in particular had 2 different counters, one for, I guess, more important licensing things, and then one just for renewals. And so I thought, hey, that's kind of good news. There's only 3 or 4 people ahead of me, maybe 5, I don't know. And so I went and pulled a number, and I realized, oh, nice, I'm only 4 numbers away. That's awesome. So I sit down, and I expect things to kind of go pretty quickly from there, and I'm kind of having a little bit of, fleeting optimism as I realize that the workers there have absolutely no desire to do their jobs. And really, you have to understand that the DMV is just the worst place in the history of forever. Like, if religion does exist and I go to hell, it's going to send me to the DMV because that's where it's going to be. I'm just going to have to sit in a DMV for all of eternity watching a bunch of idiots bumble around behind the counter, taking their sweet time and not doing any work at all, because that's what hell is to me. I mean, honestly, if there were a man in a booth outside of the DMV and he said, hey, I can take care of your license renewal right now, immediately, and you don't even have to pay me, the only thing you have to let me do is light your hair on fire, I would have said, yes, sir, light me up, get me on fire. Afterwards, you can beat me around a little bit with a crowbar, because that's how much I loathe the DMV and the people who work there. So I walk in, as I said, I sit down, I'm waiting, and my feeling of optimism that this was going to start to go quickly began to just float away as soon as I realized that the woman in front of me, the one who was getting her license renewed, she came back after getting her license and walked out the door, and instead of the person who was taking charge of that, instead of her asking for the next number, she immediately just stood up and turned around and started talking to her 3 coworkers who were also not doing anything. So at this point in time, a few more people have walked in behind me. I guess I kind of beat a little bit of a rush. I don't know. So 3 or 4 more people have walked in, and at this point, nobody is being helped. Absolutely no one. There are 2 separate stations where licenses can be made and produced, and they can take the picture. And there were 3 other computers for people of other needs. I guess I don't even know, people who just needed to do something else with their license. I don't know. I'm not informed on all the subtleties and wonderful aspects of working at a DMV. And so at this juncture, there are 4 women, the 4 women attendants who are working back there, just standing, talking amongst themselves as the line continued to pile up. And I thought, all right, I don't want to get mad or angry. Yeah, this is really rude. Yeah, this is like a middle finger to everyone else who's in here right now by saying, like, hey, I realize you're here and you don't want to be here, but I'm going to take this break for myself. And so I kind of got irritated, but I was like, you know what, whatever, let's just let it pass. And no joke, for about 5 minutes, this continues. And I know 5 minutes sounds like a really small window of time, but 5 minutes at a DMV is about an hour and a half somewhere else. Like, honestly, sitting in a DMV for 5 minutes feels like sitting in an hour and a half long feature film in a movie theater. That's how distorted the time-space continuum is in there. It must be some sort of, I don't know, something with physics. I don't even know. I'm not adept enough to make a conclusion about that, but I am sure that there is something weird going on in that DMV. Like, it's the only place in the world where as I'm sitting down, I'll consciously think, like, you know what would be really fun right now? If I would stub my toe really hard. That'd be great. I can't wait till the next time I stub my toe. Or, you know what would be great? I can't wait until the next time that, I become really ill with the flu and have to spend a whole day vomiting, or I get really constipated and just feel shitty the whole day, or something like that. Like, that's the only time where you have those thoughts, where you just think, yeah, you know what would be fun right now? Going to the dentist. Like, that's it. Nowhere else in the world do you have thoughts like that. So I continued to sit sit there and wait for about 5 minutes as these women continued to chat it up amongst themselves. And meanwhile, I'm looking around at the other people around me in line, and we're not talking, obviously, because it's the DMV and because nobody wants to talk at the DMV any more than they have to. But we kind of made eye contact with each other, me and a few other guys and girls waiting in line, and we pretty much gave that universal signal of like slightly raised eyebrows and like that kind of pursed lips, like, this is kind of ridiculous, can't believe this is happening. But nobody was taking the initiative to get things going again. So I decided I was going to stand up and just politely go ask the woman who was working the license station if she could, help out the next person in line, because I had a place to go. I have people to see, And I made especially clear to say it in the most kind and courteous way imaginable, because I often say things and people perceive them as much ruder than they actually are. Maybe that's just the way I speak, or I come off as rather curt. But I really, really went up there with the intention of being very polite and just kind of drawing her attention to the fact that, hey, I understand that your job sucks, asshole, but could you please help us, because we all have things to do. And so I walked up there and I asked her very, very courteously, hey, we've been waiting for a while and nobody's been helped. Would you mind helping people in line again so we can, get out of here? And instead of turning around, and I expected her to kind of have a little pang of guilt, like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I should be doing this, and then just walk back and continue to work. She turned around and she looked at me and she looked at me straight in the eyes and said in a really just kind of curt voice, "Calm down, sir. I'll get to it when I get to it." I want to repeat that. Calm down, sir. I'll get to it when I get to it. Now, you have to know that this felt like a punch in the face to me, because one of my biggest pet peeves is being told to calm down when I've done nothing at all that is anything but calm. I went up there with every intention of being courteous, and I really just wanted to, expedite the process for myself and everyone else in there. And I could tell that the people in line were kind of like giving their silent nods and cheers of approval in their head. Like in their eyes, they were just like, they had the same complacent look of boredom as ever before. But in their minds, I could tell they were like, yeah, you go, guy, you tell them. And so I told her that, and she told me to calm down. And the second part almost got to me worse, even though I don't have like a specific pet peeve against that. She said, I'll get to it when I get to it. Like that. How arrogant, how phenomenally rude do you have to be for it to be your job to do something, and you and the other 3 people who should be working these stations and helping people and getting through this line as fast as possible are just sitting around, just drinking coffee, talking amongst each other for no reason, for no purpose whatsoever. And so the line is continuing to pile up as more and more people come in, and eventually, about a minute or so after I went up there and talked to her, she begrudgingly turned around and sat down and called the next person up, and I was like, all right, finally, these women are going to get back to work, these attendants, and they're going to get this under control and get this line moving. And unfortunately for me, apparently the only person who felt the need to do her job was the one who I talked to, because the other 3 women who had been standing there talking since I had come in had yet to do anything. They had not even made their way to a computer yet. They weren't standing by any of the workstations. They weren't calling numbers. They weren't, carrying anything around or like filing papers. Like at the very least, they could have pretended to be busy, just like picking shit up back there, like, oh yeah, this certainly is work that I'm doing. But no, they didn't even have the courtesy to feign an attempt at their job. And so I continued to sit there and wait as 4 fully capable human beings worked as slowly as possible, and eventually I get called up, and the woman who called me up was obviously the same one who I had talked to, the only one who was actually doing work, slowly as it was, and everyone else who had gone up was very quickly taken care of, relatively to how long it took me to get taken care of. So I went up there, and I gave her my license, and she started asking me all these questions, and I've had my license renewed before. I know how long it's supposed to take. You're just supposed to give them your license. They ask you like your address and your height and your date of birth and all that stuff, and make sure all the details are right, and you sign a thing and that's it. But she spent like probably 5 or 10 minutes with my license in her hand, just dilly-dallying on her computer. I don't know what she was pretending to do, but I know that she wasn't actually entering information, because I noticed that her hands never even made the way over to the numeric keyboard. She was just kind of typing in, I don't even know. For all I know, she could have been on Google or Reddit or something. And then she told me to go over to the license picture place and to stand by the blue tarp so they can get my picture. And she didn't even give me 2 seconds to look up at the camera. She took the picture the second that I stood there. And so now in my picture, I look like a serial rapist, which, I can't really complain because everybody looks terrible in their license picture. So that really just got to me. There's not really a moral to this story. There's no really reason that it's relevant in any way, shape, or form. But it was just strange to me because you always hear these stories about the horrors of the DMV, and I guess I had never fully experienced it. I figured that the horrors was just how abominably slow these people work. But that illusion was shattered for me this weekend. Or rather a few days ago, I don't think it was the weekend, where these women just could not get their heads on straight and do any work, and then when I finally did get up there, they seemed to intentionally make my process take like 3 or 4 times longer than everyone else's. So that's the end of the story, no real reason. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you do, leave a rating, and I love you.